welcome to the Preemie Power Week, and welcome back if you were joining us earlier today. I'm Fabiana Bacchini, Executive Director of the Canadian Premature Babies Foundation, CPBF, and your host for this event. The Preemie Power Week is the second of two international live series that CPBF is hosting 2020 in recognition of World Prematurity Day. These education sessions are in collaboration with the International Family Integrated Care Committee, the Canadian Association of Neonatal Nurses, EFCNI, and GLANCE, the Global Alliance for the Newborn Care. For those not familiar with CPBF, we are a charitable organization, and our mission is to support and educate Canadian families of premature babies every step of the way. We believe that through consistent information, access to helpful resources, and peer support inside and outside the NICU, we can empower families, ensuring they are ready to care for their baby. Consistent information is especially important today when we are facing a global pandemic. With educational sessions like this, we intend to bring you the guidance of healthcare professionals and the knowledge gathered by researchers around the world. These are valuable tools to help our community raise awareness and advocate for the well-being of families and their babies. I would like to thank AbbVie for the unrestricted educational grant and Pampers for supporting the Preemie Power Week. I have with me now Victoria DiGiovanni. We pre-recorded her session as she's working today, and I'll have my introductions on her video. There you go. Renata, if you are there, can you play, please? And here with me today, I have Victoria DiGiovanni talking about growing up a preemie. She will share some insight into what her experience entailed for her and her family, as well as the hurdles she faced during childhood and adolescence. She will approach this sensitive topic, which can often feel scary, uncertain, and vulnerable, to shed some light as to what it means to beat the odds. And in her own words, each small victory counts because the little things become the big things. And before you know it, 25 weeks turn into 25 years. Victoria DiGiovanni was born at 25 weeks gestation, weighing 790 grams, arriving to this world with anxiety-provoking circumstances for her and her family. With a strong support system of family members, a team of allied health professionals, and ICU support staff, she was able to thrive. Victoria has since graduated with a degree in early childhood studies and a Master of Science in Occupational Therapy, and has been working as a pediatric occupational therapist for over a year. She hopes to one day support preterm infants and ICU families in their journey. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us here today. I really feel emotional just reading your bio and reading a little bit of your story. So thank you for joining us here today and for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me, Fabi. It's an honor to be here speaking on World Prematurity Day. I'm really excited to share my story.
Wonderful. So I will let you share the screen, and then we can have a little chat afterwards.
Sure, sounds great. So I just want this to be a combination of my experiences growing up preemie, but I also want to highlight my parents' experiences and efforts. I think they're a huge reason as to why I am where I am today. So with that, we can get started. Here is a photo of my parents. On the right is my mom, Gina, and on the left is my dad, Vince. So my mom is an educational assistant, and she supports children with disabilities, and my dad was a mechanic for Air Canada, and they decided to raise a family in Brampton, Ontario. I am the baby of the family. I have two older brothers, and back in 1995, when my parents were expecting me, Jim was 11 and Joe was 2. And so I spoke with my parents about what was going on inside their minds at the time of my birth, knowing that they were anticipating that I'd be born in October. But on the evening of July 3rd, my mom felt a lot of pressure in her lower abdomen. And she chalked it up to just having a busy weekend. She didn't even think about the possibility of going into labor because she was only 25 weeks. So she decided to get some rest to see if that would help. And in the middle of the night, she noticed she was spotting. So she called the labor and delivery unit in Brampton, and they recommended that she go in for a checkup. And when she arrived, they let her know that she was starting to dilate, and they immediately called Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto to see if they were able to accept her, if they had room for us. And thankfully they did. So when my mom arrived at the hospital, the medical team tried their best to try and halt the labor process. But I ended up being born on July 4th, 1995. I was really eager to come into this world. And like Fabi mentioned, I was 790 grams or 1 pound and 12 ounces. And I was immediately taken to the NICU to be monitored. My parents didn't know what my health status was. They just knew that the NICU team were working really hard to try and keep me alive. And the way the NICU was set up at the time, my mom describes it as a baby farm. It was almost like there were rows and rows of isolates. And she remembers seeing other preemie babies. So you would see the tender moments with the parents, but you would also see the struggles. So you would see the chaos and you would feel the urgency for the other families. And it was difficult because you didn't know what route your baby would take. So it was uncertain if that would be me at any point. So that was difficult. But day by day, the nurses and doctors encouraged my parents not to give up hope. And they shared stories about how other babies had made the transition from the NICU to home. But at the same time, they didn't hide the possibility of any negative outcomes. So my parents had to be prepared for anything. The doctors told them that they couldn't be sure of any damage that to my brain that might have happened or what the effects of that damage could be. So my parents constantly had to prepare themselves for the challenges that I might face due to my early birth. And I just want to highlight the support that my family and I received at Mount Sinai, which was unparalleled. And the NICU team really became like family. They gave my parents the strength that they needed to be able to face each day and to face each new struggle. But they also gave them the confidence to be able to feel like they were in control of the situation as much as possible. So I was kept at Mount Sinai in the NICU for 7 weeks. And the rest of the time I was kept in Brampton. And once I was in Brampton, my parents really felt like they could be more hands-on and they felt more confident to be able to advocate for my care. So I was sent home on October 9th, which happened to be Thanksgiving Day or Thanksgiving weekend. And my family was really thankful for that. And I was followed up with sick kids until I was 4 years old. And throughout those 4 years, I was assessed by the different therapies. So occupational therapy, physiotherapy, speech, and I had a lot of tests done for my vision, my lungs, my ears, and there were some pretty tense moments throughout my time in the hospital, like when I needed a transfusion, when I was taken off the vent, and once again when there was a spot on my brain, ultrasound. But in retrospect, we were very, very fortunate. And that's not to say that life after the NICU was smooth sailing. Winters were particularly difficult. There were countless trips to the emergency room in my early years. I had pneumonia numerous times. I dealt with asthma, chronic constipation, ear infections, tubes in my ears 3 times. And all of these occurrences might seem like a common occurrence for parents of non-preemie babies, but for parents of preemies, these challenges seem to be magnified because it brought back a lot of the memories of the NICU for my parents. So that was always really hard for them. But on a more positive note, when I turned 4, this was the turning point for my parents. They seemed to feel like I was getting stronger and I was making gains. And it was also around this 4-year mark where my parents started to notice a few things that were getting in the way of my day-to-day life, not in a major way, but the first was I experienced tactile hyperresponsivity. And the second was that I would worry about things a lot. So the sensory processing side of things, I was really sensitive to tactile input. So I would feel really distressed, or I'd be really focused on the way that things felt on my body. So I would flip my socks inside out so I didn't feel the seam. I wore elastic waist pants. I didn't like the feeling of the button on my skin. And I really didn't tolerate the feeling of dirt, sand, or flour under my fingers and toes. So I found with age, though, I've definitely increased my threshold and my tolerance for sensory input. But the one thing that sort of stuck throughout my childhood and adolescence was the worrying. So I went through my elementary years really striving to be my very best in all aspects of my learning. And I was very focused on all of the what ifs. And these are the expectations I had set for myself, which also translated to my high school years and my post-secondary programming. But with a great support system, I was able to find adaptive coping strategies and manage those moments that felt uncertain or scary. And I want to highlight that support system is huge. So aside from the sensory differences and the worrying, I can definitely say that growing up, I didn't feel very different from my peers. I was a happy kid, a happy teenager, and I was able to engage well with my academics. I played sports, I did other extracurriculars, drama, singing, and I had a great group of friends. So I really do feel so fortunate to be able to say that my life has felt pretty standard given the circumstances of my birth. I do feel very, very fortunate. Fast forwarding a little bit, like Fabi mentioned, in the spring of 2017, I graduated from my early childhood studies programming. So I got my degree and diploma, and I acquired over 700 hours working alongside children and adolescents and their families. And in November of last year, I graduated from my Master's of Occupational Therapy, and I've since been supporting children and families in a pediatric role to help them thrive in their day-to-day lives. So it's pretty neat in that sense. I feel like occupational therapy has definitely been central to my life before I even really knew what it was or understood what it was. I think my pursuit in the field has definitely been attributed to all of the allied health professionals who supported me in my early years with all of those follow-up sessions. So it does feel quite full circle in that sense, which is pretty neat. And to wrap up my journey to where I am today, I wanted to summarize by saying, for those of you listening who may have been impacted by preterm birth, it may seem like there are many contextual factors against you or your loved ones, and the situation at hand might feel very chaotic and uncertain, and the fear of the unknown can be a debilitating feeling that may make you feel like you want to give up. But the idea is that you fight and you keep fighting, because there's a reason why you face all of the obstacles that you face in your life and in the life of your preemie. And you may be watching as a mother, a father, a sibling, or a friend. And I want you to know that you're not alone. You are part of a network of supports, and there are so many people who are here to help you stay grounded and to take each day as it comes and to see what each day brings. And day by day, moment by moment, you will make it through, and you'll paint your preemiehood story, your successes, the hardships. And my intention for sharing my story today is that I'm able to even provide a little bit of hope that as each day progresses, each small victory that you have counts. And like in my introduction, the little things become the big things. And before you know it, 25 weeks turns into 25 years.
Wow, Victoria, thank you so much for that. What a beautiful presentation. And I really feel emotional listening to you. I know your mom from Mount Sinai, and I think your mom's spectacular. No wonder you're this amazing woman that you are now. So I really want to bring you here today because obviously I heard you speaking before. I admire immensely your courage, your strength. I share your story with our community, with our parents, and I feel that you bring us so much hope. Because when we are in the NICU, when your kids are very small, we don't know what the future brings, right? We always, we don't know. We live in this unknown. We don't know what's happening, what can happen. We are so bombarded all the time with the bad prognosis. And then we see you. And we see you shining, and you had all these challenges throughout your life, your early years of your life. And here you are now, giving hope to families that the future can be bright. And I feel that even though my child has incredible medical complexity, has a disability, I feel that he's thriving because he's here with me. So I think no matter what happens after the NICU, and we have our children, and is a reason to celebrate, because this is not an easy journey. And you always acknowledge the parents who did not take the babies home, because it also, we know it happens with prematurity, and we want to acknowledge those parents' strength as well, and the support that is available for those parents to face that piece of their journey. But I want to ask you, how do you feel when you see your pictures as a preemie baby in that tiny incubator, so little, so fragile?
Oh gosh, it's surreal. It really is. I feel like the more I know about preterm birth and the more I learn about sort of the rehab side of things, being an OT, I feel so privileged, and I feel very fortunate to be where I am today. I can't even imagine the fear that parents feel seeing a little person wrapped up in tubes and lines, and it's scary, but I feel very, very lucky to be where I am. Yeah. And I feel very blessed and appreciative of all the support that I received.
Absolutely. Victoria, today's World Prematurity Day is a day for us to raise awareness on prematurity, to make society understand the struggles of those families. We have 1 in 12 babies in Canada. What this day means to you?
Oh my gosh, this day is truly really special. I feel like I understand that my story might not be what every family experiences. And I just want to sort of reiterate that there is a whole network of supports that are celebrating today the victories, but also acknowledging that it can be very difficult for families. And we really want to uplift all of the families in their journey on World Prematurity Day, but also throughout the year. We know that today we're bringing awareness and we're celebrating the victories, but we're also acknowledging that, you know, it's a journey. It really is. And celebrating those small victories is important. So this day is really special to me. I look forward to seeing all of the posts and the CN Tower being lit up purple. That's always fun.
Absolutely.
So it's really special.
Actually, talk about the illumination. We have 28 monuments tonight in Canada lighting up in purple for World Prematurity Day. And the full list is on our website, canadianpremies.org, and you can check. There is one in your city. And take pictures and hashtag Preemie Power Canada or World Prematurity Day, because then you can see the whole social media in purple to honor these days and remember the babies who were born so early and the ones who left us too soon. So Victoria, I really want to thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. I always appreciate you and you sharing your story. And I think you are doing an amazing work in the community, supporting families who were in your shoes before. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Fabi. It really is a pleasure.